Guys, and welcome back to the Park End Podcast. It is episode number 2. A big thanks for all of the support on the first episode. Managed to get it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all of that good stuff. So it was a little bit surreal sitting down and seeing the Park End Podcast on my phone when I was lying in bed. I had a little listen through it to make sure it was alright as well. I want to say a big thanks for all of the support and the lovely comments on the first video. My dad, on the first podcast, my dad has been absolutely made up. He's been reading through them. He's been saying he's now the star of the channel. So you'll probably see me dad a lot more, to be honest with you. You might get him to do a couple of match previews over on the Mighty Blues as well. For the second podcast, we're joined by an absolutely fantastic guest, a very good friend of mine, a friend that was introduced to me through Everton and Everton content and talking about Carlo Ancelotti's Everton. It is Jordan. Jordan has also got his own channel surrounding movies and televisions and reviews, which is absolutely fantastic. By the way, I absolutely love it. If you're into movies, definitely check out Jordan's channel. We'll talk a little bit more about Jordan's channel in a little bit later on in the podcast. But Jordan, massive thanks for joining me, mate. I know we haven't spoke for quite a while because it's just been manic and, you know, basically Everton playing every 5 minutes and then not playing for 6 weeks, and it's just a bit mad at the moment. But how are you, mate? How's things?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me, and I've missed you, so that's why I've agreed to come on.
Definitely, mate, definitely. I was sitting there the other day like, I haven't done a video with Jordan for ages, and I thought, I could do the podcast. That's a defo a good way to start. But yeah, great to hear, mate. Obviously, like I said, it has been a while. It's been really manic at the moment. So obviously, we're going to follow the same sort of tale as we did with the first podcast. We're going to talk to Jordan about his Everton story, how he became a Blue, his love for films as well, because, you know, we all know as Evertonians that Everton is, you know, the one of those passions in your life that you just can't get rid of. It's one of them that disappoints you, but no matter how much we get beat, no matter how bad of a performance we put in, Richarlison comes out and puts up a picture, or we see Carlo again and we just think, I can't wait to see them again. But there is room for other passions, of course, in life, and one of Jordan's massive passions is film, very much like myself. Like I said, we'll go on to talk about that a little bit later on in the podcast. But in terms of Everton, Jordan, I spoke about, you know, my Everton story briefly on the start of the first podcast. I said I'm an Evertonian, very much like a lot of people. I was brought up as an Evertonian because my dad was an Evertonian. I've been going the game since I was 6 years old, and that was basically it. That was it. It was instilled in me since birth. I don't know anything else, and I don't want to know anything else. Are you sort of is that a similar situation for you? What's your Everton story? How did you become a Blue, and when was your first game?
Yeah, pretty much the same as you, mate. With my dad. My dad was a massive Everton fan, and you know, I go to match with him to this day. Well, not right now because of COVID, but you know, I sit next to him at the game and all that. He's the one who made me a Blue. I think that's a lot of people's stories as well. But my first game my dad took me to was actually a 5-3 defeat to QPR, which is, you know, obviously that's not ideal because we lost, but it's funny enough because the second game I went to was actually 6-2 against Swindon, so we're seeing a lot of games and we actually won. Sorry, a lot of goals there. Yeah. So we actually won that one. So yeah, it was goals galore for my first 2 games. But I think the earliest memory about Everton is not actually at the game, but when my dad took me over to the park and had the kick about with me when I was about 5 with my first ever Everton top on, and just from then really, you know, I was born to be Blue really. But yeah, it is me dad is a massive Blue, and you know, me hero really, so I'm always going to follow him.
Definitely, and that's where the passion come from. And like you said, there's nothing more Everton than your first 2 games as a child being a massive defeat and a massive win. It wouldn't be Everton if it wasn't that way. I remember, man, like I said, I had to leave at half time with man because I was crying because I couldn't take the noise. And fast forward 20 odd years, and now I'm the fan that's sitting there making all the noise. You know, probably all the other kids are going, I don't want to come back in and see this madman screaming at these referees or these players. But no, so like you said, it's very much like a lot of people's is growing up, and we're born into it, aren't we? And getting your first Everton kit as a child and going the game and watching these players and idolising these players and wanting to sort of be in their position. It's a family, and we are a family, and it's a club that you love and you grow to love, and you always will. And like I said, there was no other option for me, and I wouldn't want there to be any other option, even after the defeats, even after the disappointments, even getting to the points where you just can't be bothered by watching, or you can't be bothered even sort of entertaining it. You still go you still go the game. You still it's Everton, and it always will be. So in terms of obviously your first memories and growing up watching Everton and getting your first football kit and having a kick about in the park with your dad, do you remember any Everton players that you'd look up to and you'd sort of idolise? Any heroes from your childhood? Any players that you think, I want to be like them, I want to play like him when I'm older, I want to see him? And sort of, as well as that, were there any of those players that you grew up that idolised that ultimately come to leave Everton Football Club and it sort of hit you hard?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, because I was actually thinking about, is he going to ask me who my favourite players were? Obviously, for me, it was Duncan Ferguson. He just epitomised Everton at the time, and he was one of the big reasons I actually loved Everton, apart from my dad. I mean, he was me. I said my dad, he was my hero, but he was my hero who weren't in my life, if you get me. Him and Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I just loved Duncan. He always stepped up in the derby and stuff, and I was always nervous for derbies all the time as a kid. And when I seen Ferguson, I was like, yeah, come on, we'll do these. And yeah, it's funny you should say that, because he did leave, didn't he?
Yeah.
And it was horrible. But obviously he came back and finished his career at Everton. But I'd say the one that hurt me the most, I think it was about 14 or 15 at the time, I can't quite remember, was Wayne Rooney. I was just like, never seen anything like him. He was like the best player I've ever seen live, probably still is to this day, in an Everton shirt. And when he left, I was just like, we can't just have anything, can we? It was horrible. That was probably the one that hit me the most, Rooney, I think, and I never quite forgave him for that. I know he went on to win everything, fair enough, but on the other hand, I wish he could have just given us another couple of years. But at the end of the day, I don't think we ever could have matched his ambitions at the time. We didn't have the money and stuff, so can't hate on him too much, but it did hurt, and hurt even more when I seen him kiss the Man U badge at Goodison. I mean, that was the main reason I didn't want him back. But that one was the worst. But Ferguson was the one I looked up to as a kid. But I'd say my favourite ever Everton player was Tim Cahill, to be honest. Just the personality of the man. Always wanted to win, and I was a bit older to understand football a bit more then. Yeah. And he's probably my favourite ever Everton player. Him and Ferguson anyway. So they're my favourite players, and Rooney the best I've seen probably.
Spot on. Well, those two that you mentioned there epitomise Everton Football Club, don't they? The fight, the passion. I mean, look at Duncan Ferguson, even recently stepping into management and epitomising that passion and that energy and that fight and that just the love that he has for this football club. And I think it brought everybody closer to Duncan Ferguson. Look, the whole fan base was close to Duncan anyway, but the wins and the running up and down the touchline and stuff like that, you could see it was pure emotion. And I've also spoke before about Duncan Ferguson and the admiration I actually had for Duncan Ferguson when we were winning those games, when we beat Chelsea, when we got a good point against Manchester United at Old Trafford. Let's not remember, this was during a time in the season when I think we all sort of sat back and gone, we could get relegated here if Marco Silva keeps hold of this team, this midfield as they are. Donwit wasn't really firing like he is now. We could really seriously get relegated. So Duncan come in, and those results that he picked up were massive. But a big admiration I had for Duncan Ferguson, and still have for this day, and probably definitely always will have, was when it was going good, when it was going well, and he was getting the interviews by Sky, and they were loving it, and at BT and all of that, and they constantly asked him the same question: do you want to be Everton manager? Will you take this Everton job? And it would have been so easy for Duncan Ferguson to have turned round and said, yeah, if I'm offered it, I'll take it. It's a dream job. I always want it. That's it. And Everton would have been very easy to do what Chelsea did, what Arsenal have did, what Manchester United have done, what various other clubs have done, and gone, well, yeah, Duncan Ferguson wants the job. The fans are on board. He's getting decent results out the players. He probably won't want a massive wage, so let's just make the easy decision now. But he didn't. He come out and said, it's a dream job for me, but I want Everton to go out and get the best manager for Everton. I want Everton to go out and bring in the man who's going to come in and take us to that next level, and I don't think that's me at the moment. Now, whether he knew in his mind that Carlo Ancelotti was in the talks and it was either him or Carlo Ancelotti, I don't know. But the admiration that he come out and he put his personal dreams and wants sort of on hold and put the club first just shows the type of person that he is. And Tim Cahill done that on many of occasions as a player as well. He put the club first. He's been at Finch Farm again this week. I think he's been pictured today with Andre Gomez, so he's still in and around the club. He's randomly tweets videos of goals he scored or pictures of his kids in Everton gear, so you can tell it's, again, the saying is, once Everton has touched you, nothing will be the same, and that is absolutely spot on. It's not just the saying that we say because we're a football club and we like these sayings that make us sound brilliant. It's absolutely spot on. Players will tell you that. Players will tell you that they come to Everton with no expectations and they left an Evertonian and have continued to be an Evertonian for the rest of their lives. So no, I agree, spot on. You talk about Wayne Rooney, of course, there. It's interesting you should mention Wayne. It's been announced today that he is officially retired as a footballer. At least he's basically signed a contract with Derby County to become their official manager rather than a player manager, which sees an end to his football retirement, which was a bit weird because he didn't announce his retirement as a footballer, and it wasn't announced that he retired from football. It was announced that he'd become the Derby manager on a permanent sort of basis, and then it sort of was like, well, hang on, that means he's retired from football as well. So now you're seeing all social media flooding in about him retiring from football. He was an excellent player. And you mentioned that the hate that you had for Wayne Rooney and him leaving the football club, and obviously at a very, very good age when he was clearly head and shoulders better than anybody at the club at that time, and potentially anybody in the country. Did you sort of get that love back a little bit when he returned? Did you have a little bit more admiration for him returning, or was it sort of like, well, you've gone and give your best years elsewhere and now you've come back just because you sort of want to play for Everton again? Or did you think, you know what, maybe that deal at the time was best for everybody and he's an Evertonian and he wants to come and play for Everton again, so he has done?
This might be controversial, but I just didn't want him back. There was two reasons, mainly because I know this is a bit petty, but I thought it was slightly embarrassing to bring someone back who kissed the Man U badge at Goodison. I just thought that some of the clubs you wouldn't see them do that, and I was like, really? But the main reason was I didn't think he had it in him anymore, to be honest. I don't think he was the same player. Definitely not the same player we had when he was younger. So I was sort of against it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Did he win me over? A little bit, I suppose, when he scored the pen in the derby, and he was like, you could see the passion in his face and stuff. I was sort of like, yeah, he's right, all right. He just got to get on board now, and but I know it's a little bit petty and stuff, but it was mainly to do the fact that he just kissed the Man U badge, to be honest. I was just like, really? I supported him when he played for us when he come back, basically. Yeah.
No, I agree.
You can't hold a grudge for that long.
That's it. Well, that's fair enough, isn't it? And obviously, there's age-old arguments about situations like this, and with Wayne Rooney, and the argument is, he was only a kid, he didn't know what he was doing with this, that, and the other. But no, I agree. It's very, very difficult to then get behind a player who you've seen gone and do that. You're right. I'm exactly, not right. Your opinion. I'm the exact same as you, is what I'm saying with the penalty against Liverpool. You could see the emotion in his face, and he was also a big game player. Look, Wayne Rooney come back to Everton. I think he was top goal scorer in that season. Granted, it was a dreadful season, and then he left after it. But he was a big game player. He scored against Manchester City at the Etihad. He scored against Liverpool, taking a penalty against Liverpool at Anfield for Everton. Probably different now under Carlo Ancelotti and the mentality change in the club, which we'll go on to talk about. But back in 2018, I wouldn't have had confidence in anybody stepping up and taking a penalty at Anfield for Everton. But Wayne Rooney stepped up and he slotted it, and it was a great pen. Yeah. And I think it got us a point on that day. And you could see the emotion in his face. But I was sort of like that as you were when he left. I was like that with Ross Barkley. I was too young really to see Wayne Rooney leave. I was born, I think I was about 3 or 4 or something like that. So I didn't really grasp. Like I said, I had the kits. I was was an Evertonian. I wanted to play for Everton. I thought I could play for Everton like every other young blue, but I didn't really grasp the importance of players leaving and what it meant and how good he was, because I was just sort of, again, I was really new to it. But I had that sort of with Ross Barkley, really. I remember that 2013-14 season under Roberto Martinez, and I sort of was like, I think I'd shed a tear if Ross Barkley left Everton at that time. I remember watching him at Goodison, ripping teams to bits, progressing through the midfield, absolutely just being unbelievable. And in many ways, we haven't had a midfielder do that since Ross Barkley, in terms of pick the ball up and just run at players. But obviously the situation was, again, a bit difficult with Ross because he left, and obviously we had all the situation, and could have left for 30 million in one window, didn't leave, and went for half the price the next window. There's been a lot of discussion about Ross Barkley recently, Jordan. Didn't actually have him written down in the notes, but you know what, we may as well talk now. Most Evertonians, I think, are totally against bringing Ross Barkley back, and I'm not for bringing Ross Barkley back to Everton, by the way, because of what he'd done. But the type of player Ross Barkley is so desperately needed at Everton. It's like, if he wasn't called Ross Barkley and he was a different player and he'd grown up in Sheffield United's academy, let's say, you'd want him all day, every day. Are you sort of like that with the Ross Barkley situation, same as me? Because do you agree we desperately need that type of player, don't we?
I think we definitely need someone who can carry the ball. I would ideally love Jack Grealish, but I know he's going to cost way more money than Barkley probably, but I don't know, Cam. I sort of see Barkley a little bit different here. He was a good player. I'll give him that. He was a very good midfielder, but he did frustrate me at times with some of his 2-yard passing. I was like,
no, he was nowhere near what Wayne Rooney was.
No, I'm not saying he was a good player, but I don't know. I think I'm not all for bringing players back. In all honesty, I just think once they're gone, they're gone. I'll probably have Lukaku back tomorrow because I loved him, and he was like a brilliant goal scorer.
Yeah, I mean, he's striker.
I know. I'm sort of contradicting myself a little bit there, but with the Rooney situation and stuff. But I don't know. I don't think Lukaku hurt as much as Rooney, to be honest. But I don't know. He's probably about the only one right now that I'd maybe bring back Lukaku. But the likes of Guy and all that, they're gone. I'm not all for bringing players back unless it's on the odd rare occasion, to be honest. So I'm not really sure about Barkley, to be honest. I'd rather go and sign someone like Grealish myself, but that's just me.
No, I agree, absolutely spot on. Like I said, I'm not in the bar. I wouldn't have Ross Barkley back because he's not that perfect player. He's just the type of player that we need. But I think
he's a good midfielder. Midfielder.
Practically, he's a decent midfielder, and I think Ross, if not saying he would ever come back before, I get blasted in the comments, but if he was to come back, he'd start on a negative anyway because of the past and the fans. And rightly so, because he left us in a stupid situation and he joined Chelsea and he acted like everything was great, and he probably regrets that now, considering where we are and where he is. No disrespect to Aston Villa, but in terms of his career and not playing in the Champions League, which is why he went to Chelsea. On the Wayne Rooney situation as well, obviously Wayne Rooney rejoined Everton as Romelu Lukaku left Everton, so that was, I think, another aspect probably in what you thought, and I probably thought the same at the time. Was it's great to have Wayne Rooney back, and he probably has got a lot to offer, certainly in big games, but we're letting go of one of the best strikers in world football and we're bringing in somebody that used to play for Everton. Do you think that sort of then maybe felt like a little bit of a, we've got to sell Lukaku, so let's bring Rooney back to sort of soften the blow and go, well, look who we've got back, we've got Wayne Rooney back? Or do you think it was just sort of a case of he's leaving, try and bring him in for a couple of years and see what he can do? Because obviously losing Lukaku was a massive blow, and look, Dom's done fantastically well in the last couple of years, and Dom will continue to grow and continue to be absolutely fantastic, but Lukaku has done brilliantly in the Serie A as well. He's been fantastic, hasn't he?
Yeah, I know Dom's good. I'm playing really well. I'm not saying he'd replace Dom or anything. I'm just saying I think they'd be great up front together, to be honest, if we ever wanted to go back to 4-4-2. But what was the question again? Sorry, about Rooney.
In terms of Wayne Rooney, obviously he come in at a time when Lukaku left. So do you think sort of it was like a soften the blow situation?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I think the door was open for Rooney for years. I actually thought he was going to re-sign about 2 years earlier before he signed his contract with Man U, because there was times where he weren't playing for them all the time. And I thought he was going to come back then, but I think they offered him like 350 grand a week or something like that, something stupid like that. And obviously he signed, but I thought that was the time that he was going to come. But I remember Koeman saying, whenever you get the chance to sign Rooney, you sign him. And this might have even been before Lukaku left when I heard him say that. So he was sort of hinting at it then.
Yeah.
But I just think it was one of them. The door was always open for him. I mean, I think Ken Knight and loads of other people at the club are probably always just talking to him now and again, socialising with him and stuff like that. I mean, he was coming back with Ferguson's testimonial and everything, wasn't he? So I think the door was just open for him, to be honest. I mean, as long as it weren't like now where he's like obviously retired, or like a year before his retirement where he is no good. I think the door was always there for him, to be honest.
No, I agree, absolutely, I agree. Well, before we get into talking about current Everton and Carlo Ancelotti's Everton Football Club, let's talk a little bit prior to Carlo Ancelotti's Everton. What's your best memory of sort of a period of time, shall we say, with Everton? Could it maybe be the season under Martinez where we finished 5th, the season under Moyes where we finished 4th? Do you have a specific season where you sort of remember and you think, yeah, that's the best I've seen at Everton? No, that's not necessarily maybe the best we've performed, but that's the best season we've had and as enjoyable as it's been watching Everton.
Yeah, I think they're the two, aren't they? I mean, like the Martinez one was probably the best football we played. I think, I love going to game that season. We were just winning all the time, weren't we? And we had Coleman and Baines bombing up and down the wings and everything like that. Obviously we had Barkley, Lukaku and all that. It was good to watch. It was great. Playing some nice football. It worked for one season.
Yeah.
I think that was mainly down to having Moyes' defence. I mean, people will say it's not that, but I think it is, because he had his attacking style. Yeah. And there's still, the defenders with their mentality still there from the previous season. Yeah. And I think it was a perfect mix. We're very unlucky that season not to get 4th. Any other season, I think you get it on the 72 points, was it, or something?
Yeah.
So, but I think that my proudest moment, like overall of a season, was probably that one under Moyes, because we were tipped to go down by everyone that season. I think Rooney had just left. We brought in Marcus Bent, is that right?
Yes.
And we bought Kale for 1.5 million, and everyone was like, what's going on here with Everton? Like, who are they're bringing in no marks? And Lee Carsley was unreal that season as well in the centre mid. So I think that is probably like my proudest moment, because I expected nothing that season. Not my proudest moment, but the best overall feeling of Everton. I'd probably say that the coming 4th with Moyes, and it was just the most corrupt game ever that we didn't get in the Champions League. So another referee who got away with that one and is lauded as one of the best referees of all time now, even though he was just absolutely done us out of being in a European competition. No, I agree. Look, again, like I said, I was a little bit too young to fully remember that Moyes season, but what I've remember from seeing it and re-seeing it and talking about the games is there was a lot of ground out 1-0 wins. There was a lot of hard work and tough, digging deep performances. And whereas the Martinez season, there wasn't a lot of that. There was a lot of playing really good football. And like you said, the Martinez season sort of reminds me of how things are at the moment. Don't want to jinx anything, but it was like you're going and you're expecting to win games of football. You're going to Goodison and you're thinking, we'll win today. I remember the game against Arsenal in that season was just absolutely unbelievable. It was one of the first times that, certainly in recent history, certainly, it hadn't happened a lot prior to that game, where it was all set up for, Arsenal, Everton, who will win this. Whoever wins this is basically is in good position to finish in the top 4. And we went and we just absolutely battered them. It was a brilliant performance. It was absolutely fantastic. I remember the derby in that season. It was Lukaku's first season. He come in on loan, didn't he? Gareth Barry had come in and he was absolutely fantastic. James McCarthy had come in and was brilliant. So it was very much like that Moyes season in terms of the signings that we brought in had an instant impact on the team. And again, similar
similarities to now with Carlo, where the signings we've brought in have had an instant impact, and we're sort of going into games, even when we're playing with no striker against a decent Wolves side, and thinking, you know what, well, we should be thinking probably now, you know what, we can win these games, we can win any game that we're in. And like I said, the hard-fought fight of that 2004-05 season under David Moyes was that we finished in the Champions League was, you know, it's great to see it. It's Everton, isn't it? You know, playing glamorous football is absolutely fantastic, and winning 4 or 5-1 or scoring at, you know, players scoring at 6 or just absolutely blathering teams is brilliant to see. But digging deep and getting that horrible 1-0 is just as good for me, if not even more satisfying. Certainly, you know, the result against Sheffield United, absolutely brilliant, dead hard fought, dug deep. Arsenal, Chelsea, dug deep, dead satisfying. And you don't get me wrong, the results against Brighton and West Brom and West Ham in the Cup earlier on in the season were great as well, but we're seeing sort of a mix of that at the moment, and it leads us nicely into Carlo Ancelotti's Everton. He's been here a year, just over a year now. Jordan, I want to throw a stat at you that I read the other day. I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter. Apparently, it's a stat, so it must be right. It took Ronald Koeman, Sam Allardyce and Marco Silva a combined total of over 550 days to win 10 away league games with Everton. It took Carlo Ancelotti just over 350 days to win 10 away league games with Everton, and that's including a 101-day break due to COVID. So it shows the level of manager that we now have, doesn't it? The impact on the players that we have in the squad now. We'll go on to talking about AGM in a moment, which I think is big, because Marcel Brands made a really important point about the squad size and the width of the squad, which I want to talk about. But just Everton under Carlo at the moment, it's fantastic, isn't it? Going, and like I said, games like the other day where you don't expect anything and we come out with a win. Yes, it's going to be bad at times, we're going to lose games and we're going to have setbacks, but the future looks very, very bright, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know what, Cam, I mean, I know you quickly mentioned Martinez there when we come fifth and that, and you didn't want to jinx nothing, but this is a different type of manager, mate. Carlo Ancelotti's elite. I have got no qualms about him. Like, I don't think we'll do it next season where we went bad under Martinez. I don't think this will happen this time. I don't think if we don't win nothing with this fella, we never will, and that is the bottom line. I'm so happy that we got him. I wanted him when he first linked. I was just like, I want him over anyone, over Pochettino, anyone. He's the one I want, because I've always respected Carlo Ancelotti. I thought he was the unluckiest manager in the world to get sacked by Chelsea. I mean, come second, just won the league the year before and won the FA Cup and got sacked. I mean, I was just, what's all that about?
Chelsea for you, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, it's great. It's great to watch. And you know what? I'm not just saying this now because we've won. But I said it to my mates before the game. I was like, I'm confident we'll beat Wolves. I don't fear teams. I think we're going to win, or at least get a point out of every game now. And I know we got beat by West Ham and stuff, but it will happen. I'm not going to be right every game. But I was pretty confident against Wolves, even when I heard like Tosin might be starting and that. I know we didn't. I just thought, Wolves aren't that great. Why is everyone like worrying? And we're doing really well. So he's filled me with a lot of confidence, and you know, it looks like he's sorted that defence out. And when you say defensive, you know, we're not blathering teams all the time. Sometimes I prefer them little, you know, getting a goal, you know, sitting back or maybe going 2-0 up, and then just letting the other team play and not coming anywhere near. I mean, I'm starting to appreciate, as I get older, defending more. You know, and a lot of Italian managers like to play that way, and obviously Carlo is an Italian manager, so I actually do like the defensive side of it these days. I mean, it's not all about, like, these journalists will have you believe that, oh, you've got to play this footy and win 5-0 every game, and it's like, yeah, that'd be great in an ideal world, but sometimes you've got to adapt, and it just shows how good of a tactician he is. I'm made up with him, mate.
No, spot on. And the reason why those types of journalists and people in the media and pundits will talk about, oh, you know, we've got to play attacking football and you've got to have a go, is because ultimately it's all an entertainment value at the moment, isn't it? Because people pay £100 a month for Sky, £80 a month for BT, or however much it costs, probably about £300 in terms of everything all in for your sport packages. people want to be entertained. They don't want to see teams go out and grind out a 1-0 win. I couldn't care. As long as Everton are winning games of football, I don't care if we score in the 10th minute and then we defend our arse off for 80 minutes with 5% possession. I don't care as long as Everton are winning games of football. And you mentioned Carlo Ancelotti being a different kettle of fish to anything that we've had, especially the Martinez season. And I agree absolutely, Jordan. He is a different level, and we've seen so many different changes at Everton Football Club in the year that he's been here. In terms of even the mentality of fans, used to go into an away game and doesn't matter who we played, whether we played Tottenham, Liverpool, Sheffield United, Norwich, Arsenal, or the Sunday League team down the road. If we were playing away, you always knew we're probably not going to win this game. If we can get a point, then that's okay, but we're probably not going to win. Now we go away and you're expecting a win. And I know you could say, oh, well, the COVID and the no fans and this, that, the other. And that, yes, that probably has had an effect. And you've seen that with playing at Goodison as well. I actually think if we had fans at Goodison, would be a lot better. Would we have beat Chelsea at Goodison Park without the 2,000 fans there a couple of months ago? I don't know. Would we have beat West Ham a couple of weeks ago with fans at Goodison? Maybe, yeah. Maybe we'd have, wouldn't have won some of the away games. But what we're seeing is a difference in mentality. Is we're now going into away games, which is 1 point, thinking we'll win this, or we're better than these, so we'll win. Doesn't matter where we're playing. Doesn't matter who we're playing. If we're better than them, we'll win. And Carlo has been very vocal in that, hasn't he, George? In terms of, he hasn't said that directly about away games, but he said something about James Rodriguez when he joined, which made me think that's his philosophy for games of football as well. He was asked about James settling into the Premier League. How long will he take to settle in? Will there be a period? And he said, what are you talking about settling in? He's playing the same game. There's 22 men on the field. There's one ball. The aim is to score goals. Doesn't matter where he's playing football. He's not playing tennis. He's not playing basketball. So it's the same. And I think Carlo sort of adopts that in the team talks with the sides, is to say, yeah, you're playing 2 hours down the road to where you'd usually play, but it's the same size pitch, it's the same goal, it's the same ball. You're better than these, go out and win. And we're seeing that again in terms of Everton, before Carlo Ancelotti conceding a goal and their heads would drop, be it going 1-0 down or, it being 1-0 up and conceding and then losing that game. Usually if we conceded a goal, we'd need to be 4-0 up before you realistically sat back on your couch and went, we've won this. Everton could be 2-0 up in the last 20 minutes of a game and you'd still think, we haven't won this. And maybe you still feel like that now because it's Everton, and that's been Everton for the last 22 years of my life. But now under Carlo, we're scoring and we're either keeping an absolutely unbelievable defensive line and going out and winning that game 1-0, or we might concede again, but then we go up the other end and score like we did against Wolves, and we make it 2-1, and then we keep a strong defensive line. I haven't seen us so defensively strong for a long time, mate. In fact, since David Moyes, I don't think we've been this defensively good. Another thing I want to mention with Carlo as well, and I want to see if you'd agree, George, is options. I've just got Tom in my head there, I don't know why. Is options. Obviously, we started the season with Dean, Coleman, Mina and Keane as a back four. We had Gomez, Alan and Decore playing in the middle. We had James, Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin playing up front. We battered everyone. We won 7 out of 7. We scored about 40 goals. It was great. We then went into the derby. Richarlison got a red card, so he was suspended. And, we had to make some changes for the next games. We then went on a bit of a bad run of form. We lost to Southampton, Newcastle, Man United. We beat Fulham, we lost to Leeds, Burnley. We then come out of that bad form with a win against Chelsea. Carlo changed it. He put Ben Godfrey at left back, which I think everybody at the time thought, what? Ben Godfrey's a centre half. He had Mason Holgate at right back. We went out for 3 or 4 weeks after that. We were absolutely excellent. We were brilliant. So good. Fantastic. Strong defensively. Going forward, we were scoring enough. We then lost the game to West Ham, which was a disappointment. We come back for the Wolves game, and he's got Luca Dean back fit, but he sort of, because of how good of a manager he is, I think he's looked at that and gone, well, Adama Traore will probably be playing in this game, and I don't really fancy Adama Traore's pace against Luca Dean, so I'll put Ben Godfrey left back, and I'll move Luca Dean forward, which I don't know why, but I've never thought about doing before, but it makes so much sense because of how good Luca Dean is, and that worked. Luca Dean gets an assist in the first 10 minutes, and Ben Godfrey's solid. It's so important to have a manager with that experience, isn't it, George? Is to have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, because so many times in the past we've been used to, if plan A doesn't work, we've lost, and you may as well just turn your telly off because it's not going to happen. Whereas now we can change it, we can put players in different positions, and Carlo is doing this with a squad that, other than 4 players, let's be honest, 18 months ago, we all sat here and went, we're going down here. We're going down. We're not good enough. It's the same squad. Look at the performances. I put a tweet out. I don't know if you've seen it, Jord, the other day. But I said it's so testament to this team and how well Carlo Ancelotti has done at Everton in the year he's been here. Is that you've got an argument as to who is our most improved player. Michael Keane, before Carlo, a lot of fans were saying, get him out, he's not good enough. Now, unbelievable. Yerry Mina, very, very solid. Certainly recently, he's been brilliant. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we all know about Dom. Alex Iwobi recently has been fantastic. This is all direct, and it's not all down to Carlo, because Dom's form and Alex Iwobi's form and Michael Keane are down to the players wanting to play and improving themselves. But having a manager like Carlo is a big reason as to why we've improved, haven't we, as a squad. And the fact that we're even in a conversation for Champions League in January just makes me want to fall off my chair.
Yeah, you just said it, mate. They're not going to look at Carlo, are they, and go, what's he on about? Because he's got everything to back it up. And obviously the players are listening to him. And I'm glad you mentioned Michael Keane there, by the way. Just quickly want to say, I think he's probably been my player of the season. I know Dom scored 11 goals and stuff, and even more in the cup, but for me, that man has been so consistent at the back. Watching the other night and his passing, I've never seen him pass like that before till this season, playing these long range passes everywhere and
pinpoint as well.
Sorry?
Pinpoint as well on players' feet.
Yeah. They weren't just like, I'll give it. They were like important passes that found every player. So yeah, everyone. Look, there's been a lot of player improvements. Yerry Mina, another one. I think they've got a great little partnership there now. Testament to Carlo for doing this. I mean, he said to Dom, just stay in the box, and it's worked. Yeah. And when you were saying before about Rodriguez, and I remember it was after the match of the day, I think, and someone interviewed him, and he was saying, what was your thing and all this? And he went, yeah, I've got tactics and that, but football is not complicated. In fact, it's very simple, and that is just confidence, isn't it? Proper confidence oozing out of him, and I think I think that leaks through to the players as well. That confidence, and I'm just and like you said about changing the formation, not the formation, but players' positions. I'm not a big fan of players playing out of position, and never have been, like centre mids on the wing and stuff like that. But at the start of the season, we had Ben Godfrey as an option for centre half, and now he sort of turned him into this player where if Luca Dean gets injured, all right, it's a big blow, but you're not like overly that bothered because you just go, yeah, Godfrey's son, go there, go left back for us. So he sort of made these players adapt, and they're not really out of position because he's made them adapt to two different positions the way he's handled them. If you get what I mean? I mean, like, all right, go back to Martinez throwing Tom Cleverley on the wing there. He's never a winger.
No.
But I think if that was Carlo, he probably would have worked with the midfielder to work on the wing, if you get what I'm saying. Like he has with Godfrey at left back, and I know Holgate played right back for West Brom, but I think he's probably worked with them and what they should do in them positions instead of just going, do you mind going on the wing for us this week?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Do you mind going left back for us this week? He's probably worked with them properly and knows what to say to them.
Yeah, definitely 100%, mate, 100%. I completely agree, and I think Alex Iwobi alluded to it when he played right wing back against Fulham, and he was sort of asked, I think, after the game, what's that about? And he said, well, the managers had me in all week practicing playing in this position, so I'm more comfortable playing in this position. You're spot on. I don't want to go into previous managers, but I do agree. I think sometimes under previous managers, be it Martinez, Koeman, we lined up on the day. The players got told, come to be at Goodison Park, you're playing, or you're being involved, and then they'd probably crocked up thinking, is right, I'll play centre mid the weekend, brilliant, and Koeman's gone, you're playing left back today, and it's been like, well, obviously I'm not going to perform because I'm not a left back. Whereas under Ancelotti, there's a lot more thought, it's a lot more careful, there's a lot more planning into it, and that's showing in players' performances. Ben Godfrey, honest to God, mate, but fans that aren't Everton fans and don't know a lot about football will probably look at Ben Godfrey and think he's a natural left back. If you said to a non-Everton fan who doesn't watch English football, let's say, or maybe a Spanish football fan who doesn't watch English football, and you showed them a video of Ben Godfrey playing against Chelsea, and you said, do you think that's his natural position at left back? They'd go, yeah, he's dead good there, he's comfortable on the ball, he's breaking down the wing, he's defensively solid. He hasn't played in his natural position. His natural position is centre half. He's played there once this season in a 4 against Rotherham in the cup the other day. Rotherham. Every other time he's played centre half, he's been in a 3, which I don't like because I don't think they understand it as much. And I think Mina and Keane in the 2 are absolutely unbelievable. He's played right back at times and he's played left back, and he's been exceptional in every game that he's played. Same with Alex Iwobi. When he's moved to the right, he's been brilliant. Again, he got his goal the other day, which I don't even think he's had as much credit for as he deserves. It's a fantastic finish. It's an absolutely unbelievable finish, and this confidence is coming from Carlo, isn't it, Jordan? And do you also think the realism from Carlo ultimately is is a big sort of important point as to where we are? Because obviously it was very easy for us to all get caught up at the start of the season about where we're going to finish, and when we went on a 7-win win streak, 4 out of 4 in the league. He'd won Manager of the Month. We were top of the league. It was great. Recently, we went on that run where we beat Chelsea, Leicester, Arsenal, Sheffield United, and it was very good. But Carlo has come out, and let's be honest, we all said at the start of the season, this is a transition season. If we finish in the top 8, great. This is a transition season. We've still got too many players in the squad that aren't good enough, too many players that are collecting a wage that aren't even going to be involved, that need to be moved on, and not enough quality. Now, at times this season, myself, probably you, Jord, I can't speak on behalf of you, but I'm sure you felt this. I've sort of felt like, what if? Maybe we can get in the Champions League. Maybe we can win the league. Well, you've got Carlo. We've got these players. It's brilliant. But then we've been stuck with the defeat to Southampton, the defeat to West Ham. And there has been at times, and I get it because emotions involved, and when you've got this belief and you've got this sort of vision and then it's struck down, there has been times where we've gone, oh, we're not this good, we're not that, we're not the other. Carlo has always come out, even when we've been playing well. He'd done it at the start of the season when we went, I think, 3 out of 3. We come up against Brighton, who were in poor form at the time. They hadn't started well. And he was asked, could you go on and win it? And he went, we're in a bubble at the moment of positivity. We've won every game. It's been brilliant. That bubble will pop. And when that bubble pops, we have to be able to react. And what he meant there was, we'll lose a game and we have to be able to react. He was asked it after the Wolves game, I think, about finishing in the Champions League. And he come out and said, I don't think we're ready to finish in the Champions League because I think there's 4 or more teams better than us. Now, we may finish in the Champions League. It's a very open season and it will be a massive achievement if we do. But do you think the fact that Carlo Ancelotti is coming out and being realistic and saying to fans, look, we've got a very good team. We want to fight for the Europa League. We will be in the Champions League within the next couple of years, but it's not all going to be done this season. There's 4 other teams better than us. The bubble will pop. We'll lose games of football. We're not the best. We need to improve. Do you think that ultimately, again, is even more of a reason for fans to sort of be so happy at the moment being an Evertonian, as we haven't got a manager that 1 minute says, yeah, we could finish in the Champions League, we've got the squad, and then the next week say, we haven't really got the squad, this, that, the other. He's being consistent in his message, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think it is very important because fans he doesn't want to let the fans down, does he? I mean, he's not going to come out and go, we can get top 4. He's been there before, he's done it. Yeah. He knows how to handle media, and I just think, he's not. He basically doesn't want to build the fans' hopes up, does he? Yeah. However, maybe he quietly thinks we can get in the top 4. I don't know, or maybe he is just being totally honest, because I would say there's probably 4 teams better than us at the minute. Yeah. But yeah, I do. I'm glad the way he's handled it. And when he said it, I was like, we're not going to win every game, and there will be bumps in the road, and I just have to agree with what he said. Yeah. There's always going to be that, unless you're a top level team, like when Barcelona were, when they were amazing.
Bayern Munich.
Yeah, some of the best teams you've seen. Unless you're one of them, mate, you can't just go out and say we're going to win every game. And obviously the bubble is going to burst. And he signed 4 players, really, hasn't he? Well, yeah. I know he signed on Conku as well, but 4 main first team players. You can't just turn a whole squad round in one season like that. It's very rare. So he's just being level-headed and staying grounded, and I'm happy he's doing that. Yeah. I don't want him to get carried away, in all honesty, and it just keeps the fans' expectations, stop shooting through the roof, really, doesn't it? I mean, I think he's handled it well.
Yeah, spot on. You mentioned something there when you started about the media, and I actually think this is a massive sort of important feature, if you like, in employing managers in this modern day and age of football. You need a manager who can sit in front of the media, both when it's going well and when it's not going well, and face them, and ultimately play them at their own game, really, because they're gonna get asked hard questions. They're gonna be tried to tied in a knot and made walk down a certain certain path to say a certain thing. And in previous years, we've had managers who haven't been able to manage the media. They've said one thing one week, said another thing the next week. They've been inconsistent in their message, or, you know, they've struggled to answer the question. Carlo Ancelotti is one of the best managers, not just Everton, one of the best managers I've ever seen at basically giving the media very little to work with in press conferences. I remember Paul Joyce coming out and saying, "Oh, why did you mention Virgil van Dijk with the hammers? Are you point scoring?" And he said, "I'm not point scoring. Virgil van Dijk injured hammers. That's why I mentioned it." And Paul Joyce sort of went back in his seat and was like, "Oh, okay." Like you said about the hammers situation, he was asked about hammers settling into the Premier League, and he said, "I told you last week he doesn't need time to settle. He's a brilliant footballer. He'd be brilliant wherever he goes. He's not playing a different sport." And, you know, again, some people might view that as being disrespectful, but what he is he's not allowing the media, and he never has, and that comes with experience and the amount of trophies that he's won and where he's been and what he's seen and his experience as a player as well, is that he's not going to be allowed to be led down a corner. He's not going to be allowed to lead down a certain path, because he knows full well in all of the countries that he's worked in Italy, he's worked in France, he's worked in Spain, he's worked in England, all of those countries come with a different pressure from the media. I think Spanish media is quite is puts a lot of pressure on managers when they're losing games of football, so he knows how to deal with that. He isn't going to be sat and walked into a certain corner and made to say a certain sentence that's going to be plastered all over the newspaper the next morning. He's going to say it how it is, and he's going to basically he's going to say, you know, the situation that he wants and how he wants it to come across. He done it last week with Calvert-Lewin. He was asked, what's the do we know how long Calvert-Lewin will be? No. What's the injury? Hamstring injury. That was it. Didn't give anything else bar that. When he was asked about hammers, he I can't remember which journalist it was, but he said, "Carlo, you said that hammers would only be out for a week or so. He's missed 4 games now. What's the situation there?" And he said, "He's missed 4 games because we played 3 in a week. He's been out for 2 weeks, a little bit longer. He'll be back soon."
He puts journalists back in the place in the nicest possible way.
He does.
He doesn't get them going against them.
No, he does it respectfully.
Yeah,
I think he does it to the point where they sit back and they go, "You know what? I'm not going to be able to put this man in. I'm not going to be able to get what I want out of him. I'm just going to get what he wants." And that's so important in modern day football. It's so important, because as soon as the media start turning against the manager and the manager starts saying things that the media misconstrue, or that the manager might say something that is, you know, the media don't have to misconstrue, and they just say, "There's the headline, that's what he said," then his pressure comes. And then obviously he spoke a lot about pressure, Carlo Ancelotti, since he's been at Everton, and he said he doesn't believe managers have pressure. Ultimately every manager has pressure, but he's paid to do a job, and he's come to do a job. He's never really, he's never been vocal about being under pressure or whatever, even when we've been winning. And I said about the talking about the bubble popping, he's always said those quotes, Jord, when we've been winning games. When he hasn't come out and said at the end of a loss, I said that this bubble would pop, or we were always going to lose a game. He's come out when we've been in fantastic form, and he's been asked, "Can you win the league? Can you win the Champions League?" And every time he's gone, "Look, we've got a long way to go. There's 4 teams better than us at the minute," or "This bubble will pop." So that way fans listen to that, and they might go, "It's a bit of a Debbie Downer." But ultimately, when we lose, they go, "Well, Carlo did say it after we won." And we're all sitting here going, "Well, Carlo did say we'd lose games. He did say it's a transition season. He did say that these things will happen." So it just is. It's that expectation, isn't it? And as fans, with the emotion, maybe the expectation does go through the roof a little bit when we're winning and we're beating Tottenham away from home for the first time in however many years. But it's important that we do realise that Carlo has had 1 transfer window, and I do want to go on to talk about that in a little bit later on in the podcast. And that 1 transfer window, he's already brought in the quality that is even putting us in the conversation for Champions League at the moment.
Yeah. Just quickly, when you mentioned the Tottenham game there, I thought that was a very, very important mental block to get past, and I'm made up we done that, because I was so sick of going to these top 6 teams and just rolling over or not being able to get it over the line, and I thought that was very important, and I'm made up we just got it out the way first game of the season. That is 1 stumbling block that we have to get past. So I
agree.
Just happy with that.
No, I agree. And look at the top sides that we've played this season per se. I mean, we haven't done well against Manchester United, granted, so I'll put them aside. But got a point against Liverpool. Wasn't.
But I mean, is away like.
I agree. I agree completely. No, I agree. Again, I don't think we'd won in London for however many years. We certainly hadn't won at Tottenham for I think about 12 years or something like that. We hadn't won against the big 6 sides since the Roberto Martinez win at Old Trafford against Manchester United. So no, I agree completely. But like I said, look at the wins that we've had over them teams this season. We beat Chelsea. We beat Arsenal, who were one of the big six, if you like. We beat Leicester, who some would say are now in there. We beat Tottenham away from home. We haven't played City yet. We lost to Manchester United. Okay, we drew at Liverpool, which is about time we got some luck in a Merseyside derby. So you can see the results are changing, and ultimately they're changing against those big sides, but they're also changing in those games that you look at and go, we should go out and win today, and you know what that means. We're not going to go out and win. I think you've spoke before on Twitter, Jord, about the Everton, that mentality, and fans going into games going, oh, Sheffield United haven't won a game this season, time for Everton, this, that, the other, and just completely eradicating that, because the new time for Everton is, we'll turn up and we'll beat them, because they're crap, they've been crap all season, so we'll just beat them like we have with every other team. That mentality change within the fans is massive as well, isn't it, George? We have a responsibility to not expect Everton to lose, because notoriously in previous years we've lost those games because it's different now.
I'm glad you asked that, mate. I mean, I'm sorry if any of these people who are watching who put that meme up and that, but I just hate it. I hate this time for Everton thing and all that. Look, you can say what you say doesn't affect the game in whatsoever, what you put on Twitter, but I believe in a way it does. It trickles down, it trickles through the fan base and everything, and we just need to get out of that. Carlo is, I believe, slowly doing it. All right, you still had the odd person saying Ryan Brewster's going to score his first goal, or Sheffield United are going to win the first game, you know it's going to be 1-0, but then you don't hear from them people afterwards. So I think we need to jib it. Just stop it now.
We do it. Ultimately, why won't we have confidence going into any game of football? We've just beat a Wolves side who are very good at home and very strong. Okay, they haven't had a great season this season, but still a very strong team with Gylfi Sigurdsson playing up front. We beat Tottenham earlier on in the season with 3 players starting who hadn't even been at the club a week. James Rodriguez hadn't even been in the country for 10 days, and he started and he was excellent. Decore had been here 4 days. Alan had been here just, I think, a week on the day, and they all played and they all beat Tottenham comfortably. We do need to change that mentality, and I do think it's changing now. I do think we're going into more games saying we should beat these, and we've got every confidence that we'll win. But you're right, I don't like that. I don't like you know what's going to happen, and it's because I don't like it because it's been proven so many times in the past. You know, the Villa game last season.
But it's also been not proven as well. Like the Sheffield United, there's a lot of times where people say this and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I'm not fully having a go at people who do that, because maybe they just need someone like Carlo to come in and change that.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what they need, because for years we haven't won nothing. Yeah. And it has happened on a few occasions. It has, on quite a few occasions, but there's also a lot of times it hasn't happened as well. So I think we just need to, try and get a bit of confidence back into the team now. And I think this is the best we've been for a long time since Martinez's first season. So I hope we can just all, as a fan base, start believing again, really.
Yeah, it's also the most stable we've been in a long time as well, and the future. And before we move on to Carlo, I want to talk about Carlo as a person and his love for Everton ultimately. But no, you're right, 100%. I meant like previous to Carlo, it was proven, like the Villa game with Silva. Everton have got the chance to go top for the first time in however many years. We lose. Now 2 games into the season, we had a chance to go top and we didn't even talk about it. We just won, and then we won the next game, and then we won the next game, and we come into a Merseyside derby, top of the league in October, middle of October. We're now in January. We're 1 point off a side. I was talking to Tom on the live stream a couple of days ago, George, and he said, look at the difference. We spoke before about the away stat and how many games it's took Carlo to win 10 away games with Everton. Another unbelievable stat that Tom brought up the other day that we spoke about is there was a 50-point gap between Everton and Liverpool at the end of last season. A 50-point gap. We're 1 point behind them now. And I know the season isn't over and there's still a lot can happen, but that we were never a point behind Liverpool at any point in the season last season. That shows how much we've progressed, and ultimately we do need to eradicate going into any game with any negativity, because if we were going into any game with any negativity, it'd be in the Wolves game when we were playing with Gylfi Sigurdsson up front and we went out and won it. So why should we not go into any game? Now, I'm not saying go into any game thinking, we'll definitely win this, because obviously we won't. We'll lose games. We'll lose games that we play our best team and you think this will be a piece of piss, this will be dead easy, we'll win this. We'll lose it because it's a transition season. We're not even a season in under Carlo, a year in, first full season. like you said, 4 transfers made. One of them being a loan, and obviously Nkunku coming in, but he come in as an under-23s player who's had first team experience because Leighton Baines retired. So we have to absolutely be positive, and it needs to be that mentality shift now of Everton are playing again today. Expect to go out and win the game, because that's ultimately Everton. Before we move on then, I would talk about the AGM, and obviously I do want to get into your channel because I just think it's brilliant, mate. I just love watching the videos constantly.
Nice.
Carlo Ancelotti as a person, mate. A lot of people had questions about Carlo Ancelotti. Still to this day, you're seeing silly transfer rumours. Oh, Chelsea will sack Frank Lampard, and Carlo Ancelotti's already packed his bags. They're not coming from Evertonians. They're coming from idiot fans who think that Carlo would just pick up his bags and walk and go back. It's laughable, isn't it? But I'm seeing that on Twitter, and those things used to frustrate me. Whereas now I look at them and I just go, I feel sorry for whoever's making that crap up in their bedroom. Why would you make that crap? It just makes no sense. But Carlo as a person has come into Everton, and taken away from those, obviously those conversations at the moment are a load of crap because we know what Carlo said. But when he first come in, there was a lot of people, he's only, not Evertonians, but a lot of people from the media and different fans, he's only here for the last payday, he won't be here for very long, he only stays for 2 years at the football club, this, that and the other. That is all being proven wrong. Since Carlo Ancelotti has come in at Everton, he spoke about his love for Crosby and how much he absolutely adores living in Crosby. Every time he's asked about, I think he done an interview with, I want to say Forbes, but it mightn't have been Forbes, it might have been another one of those massive magazines, and he basically was asked about life in Everton, and he spent about half an hour talking about Crosby Beach and how amazing Crosby is and how you've got to come to Crosby, to whoever he was talking to. Carlo loves this football club, doesn't he? I think Carlo has found the perfect club for him. It's a family club. We're a family as fans. We all go the game in numbers. You've seen the first game Carlo attended before he was manager, the game against Arsenal, when the roar of the fans, you can see him saying wow to Farhad Moshiri. He fell in love with this football club as much as we fell in love with Carlo, and I think I am confident that he'll be here for even past his contract. I think he wants this to be his last job, personally. Do you agree?
Yeah. Goes back to what you were saying at the start, mate, at the very start of this podcast. Once Everton touches you, I'm just hoping that's the case with Carlo. It does look to be the case. Looks very happy. Says he's up here he wants to be here for the long run. That's what we wanted here.
Yeah.
Hopefully it all goes well and he will stay here for the long run. I really, at the minute, that's what I wanted here. I mean, hopefully it can carry on happening on the pitch and we can carry on improving. I'm sure we will under him. But yeah, as a person, mate, you can't dislike him. I don't even think rival fans can dislike him. How could you? You know what I mean? He's just very humble guy and knows football, an absolute genius. So yeah, he's got the personality and he's got the managerial ability. So you can't dislike him, mate. He's a wonderful man.
Yeah, he is. He is an absolutely wonderful man, and he's a wonderful man who has fell in love with our wonderful football club, and that is such a good combination to have a manager with the experience of Carlo, with the obviously the trophy cabinet that Carlo has, with the contacts that he's got for bringing players in. That's all well and good, but if he's got no passion, no love behind the job, then you'll start to slowly see that and things will fizzle out. To have a manager like Carlo with the love and the passion and the energy and the want to win and the belief that Carlo has got, it's only positive things going forward, and I absolutely cannot wait for the future. I want to move on then.
I just love that fact that he went to Beatlestand.
Literally within a week of him being an Evertonian, being at Everton, he was pictured in the stand with a fan. I think he's fell in love with the city as well, if I'm being honest with you. Carlo comes across like a manager who doesn't want to be in his out. A lot of people around football, probably footballers, managers, go to training, come home and probably spend a lot of time at home. So they should be doing now, by the way, because of what's with the restrictions and stuff. But just generally, they probably spend a lot of time at home because they know if they go out, they'll get mobbed. They don't potentially want to be hassled or whatever. Carlo isn't like that. He appears to me like he just wants to get out there, see the city, see what it's got to offer, and in doing that, he's fell in love with it.
Yeah. I don't want to bring ex-managers up and stuff, but like the time Marcel Silva was here, I didn't mind Marcel Silva. Ultimately, it weren't the job for him.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, Ancelotti, within a week or two, connected with the Everton fans more than he ever did.
Yeah.
So it just shows, and Koeman, you know, he's connected with this club in more than one way. Sorry, in many of ways than their managers ever did, and I think that's a big thing. Like we were talking about our favourite players before, Ferguson, Cahill. Not only were they good players, but they got the club and stuff. And I think Carlo is definitely warm to Everton. So
yeah,
sorry to interrupt there.
No, spot on, absolutely. That's a really important point, mate. It's a really important point. You're absolutely spot on. I agree. I think when you look back at Marco Silva's time or Ronald Koeman's time at the football club, they didn't really get Everton. They didn't understand it. I don't mind Marco Silva. I thought he was an alright bloke. He seemed like a decent bloke. Wasn't, like you said, wasn't the right man for the job. Far too big of a job for him. But I don't hate him. I don't dislike him. I think he was an alright fella. But he never connected on that level with Evertonians like Carlo has done, and Carlo really seems to love this club and love this city and love the fans and love the players, and he wants the best for this club. And you've got a manager who's won 4 of the top 5 leagues in European football, won the Champions League multiple times, won World's Best Manager multiple times, and he's in love with your football club and wants your football club to succeed. Then obviously it's a positive, and it's going to be very, very important going forward. Moving on then swiftly, football at the moment. Obviously we're in a very, very interesting time at the moment. With what's going on with COVID restrictions and stuff like that. No fans allowed in stadiums again, which is very disappointing, of course, after having 2,000 fans, but understandable. Obviously Everton have had 2 games postponed in recent weeks. The Manchester City game and then the Villa game, which was due to be played on Sunday. The Sheffield Wednesday game in a couple of weeks is still going ahead. However, Sheffield Wednesday have had 2 of their next championship fixtures postponed due to a COVID outbreak. It's sort of... Yeah, they've had 2. So that's still going ahead because it's the cup and it's different rules, but it's maybe something just worth noting just in build up to the game. Obviously there's been a lot over the last 48 hours about football players celebrating. I think the EFL have released new guidance today which says that they can't spit or shake hands or celebrate, etc, etc. I don't know about you, mate, but I've got this horrible feeling that this is going one way, and that's at the very least a break in football. I think they'll probably say we'll have a 2-week break and then we'll come back, or we'll attempt to come back, and then if ultimately it'll be reviewed after the 2 weeks. I don't know if you feel the same, or you think they'll just put the measures in place to ultimately stop the spread, because when football first returned, we were seeing 5 or 6 positive tests out of all of the Premier League clubs. Now we're seeing double figures, quite high double figures as well. What's your sort of take on that on football at the moment? And ultimately, do you agree? Do you think that it's probably going to get postponed or suspended again? Because ultimately, you look at it now and you think Everton play Aston Villa and Manchester City now towards the back end of the season. Aston Villa are going to have about 5 games to play. Now, Aston Villa might be within a Champions League challenging place or a Europa League challenging place more likely, and they'll have to play Saturday, Wednesday, and at the end of the season that fatigue's going to catch up on them, and that ultimately isn't fair because they've had to shut their training ground down because of a COVID outbreak. And also, just an added question to that, mate, football players breaking COVID rules. You've seen a whole host of football players having parties and Christmas parties with each other and all sorts of wild parties that we're not going to specifically talk about with specific Manchester City players. Do you think there just needs to be a little bit more punishment for that? Because it just seems like those players are getting told, don't do that again, a slap on the wrist and a 10 grand fine, which, let's be honest, is petrol for them. Because ultimately, cases are rising, more and more games are being postponed, and it just isn't in a great situation at the moment, is it?
First of all, will football get postponed? I wouldn't be surprised. There's already managers coming out now saying it needs to carry on and all that. So there is talk of it in the football world. So I've got a feeling that they won't, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do, if you get me. I think just quickly on the celebrating thing, I think you're opening a can of worms there, because if they stop celebrations, some players will probably forget or can't hold their emotions if they've just scored a last minute winner. And if they celebrate, everyone's just going to come down on them like a ton of bricks because you're not allowed to do that. And I think it's just opening more anger issues and stuff. they're all next to each other on a corner anyway.
Yeah.
When the corner comes into the box, so I don't really think that's a good rule to enforce, in my opinion. They're all negative before the game anyway. So what is that going to do apart from infuriate people if the odd celebration happens? I just don't get it. Maybe it's a role model thing where people, see them on screen not doing it, so they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Sort of get that a little bit. But I think it'll do more harm than good, actually, just because of what people are like on social media and stuff.
Yeah.
One player scores a last-minute winner, they're all just going to start typing away on the keyboards. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe he's doing that. So I think it's a bit of a can of worms. The Man City game was Kyle Walker, apparently. I just think we should have been able to decide on that one because that is nothing to do with Everton.
Yeah.
So I thought it was handled pretty badly.
Yeah.
And if Everton wanted that game to go ahead, then maybe it should have, because that's not our fault. That's Kyle Walker's fault, and he is paid by Man City. However, there might have been players in the camp who mightn't have shown up in them. I don't know how it works, the testing. I don't know if it could say negative and you'd actually have got it and it doesn't show up till hours later. I don't know how it works, but I think that probably should have been up to Everton, that one, to be honest. I think it was like a punishment to make it go ahead for Man City, if you get me.
Yeah. Well,
in a way.
I
don't know if you agree with that.
No, I agree, and ultimately I think the Man City one, and what we've seen differently with the Villa situation is that we had no involvement in the Manchester City game. I woke up on that day thinking Everton are playing Man City tonight. It's a big chance to win. It's going to be difficult because of fitness levels, and we only played a couple of days ago. And I still had that feeling at 4-5 o'clock when I finished work. I was getting ready to sit down, watch the match. I was getting ready to do the instant match reaction, the player ratings on the Mighty Blues, and we sort of found out 2 hours before kickoff that this game wasn't happening. Now, we knew there was issues with COVID at Manchester City. Kyle Walker and Gabriel Jesus, we found out on Christmas Day, were tested positive. But as far as I was concerned, they were the only two players. And there'd been Premier League teams with 2 or 3 players out prior to that had continued their games of football. So I think it was the fact that there was no communication. Like you said, it was handled dreadfully. Absolutely handled. To say that this is Premier League football, not Sunday League football. It's not like you can turn up on a day, phone a player from the other team and them say, oh yeah, we're not turning up today, lads, and you just can go, it's right, we'll go home, get a bath, have a scan. That's not it. This is Premier League football. We'd have had to employ stewards, health and safety coordinators, ambulance workers, the chefs. There'd been about 250 people that had been at Goodison Park, or at least ready to go to Goodison Park for that game, as well as the players who will have trained, at their team meetings, at their team talks, this, that, the other, got themselves ready for that game. For it to then be said, oh yeah, by the way, this game isn't on, and Everton to not be in that conversation, it was absolutely shocking. And Everton absolutely, by the way, were in the right to request why that game wasn't suspended. Okay, it wasn't gone ahead. Sorry, okay, it didn't go ahead because there was a COVID outbreak and it was within the best sort of mind to keep everybody as safe as possible. Sound, no issue with that. If safety is paramount and safety comes first, absolutely fine. But there's got to be communication. You have to tell the team that are hosting the fixture that there's a possibility that it mightn't go ahead. That's what's different with the Villa game. We knew from them. Go on, sorry. Go on, I'll tell you in a minute. No, I was just going to say, that's what's different to the Villa game. Aston Villa asked the Premier League on Monday night, can they postpone this game? So we knew even going into Tuesday's game against Wolves that the game against Villa mightn't be on. I knew yesterday morning waking up, this game ain't happening. I'm not doing a preview tomorrow because this game ain't happening tomorrow on Sunday because it's going to get postponed. So when it was postponed yesterday afternoon, Everton had been involved in the conversation. The decision had been made by the Premier League board. We all knew that was happening, and I think that's the main difference. And we're seeing it more often, mate, and it's affecting specific teams. Aston Villa, like I said, listen, Everton will have to play Villa and City midweek towards the back end of the season. That's fine. You've also got the Euros coming up, which is a big talking point. They can't really afford to push the season back any longer because of the Euros. Aston Villa are going to have to play 2 games a week, probably every week for the last 6 weeks of the season, which isn't really fair on them, considering there's an outbreak. Listen, I don't want to talk about who the reason for the outbreak of Villa, because I don't know it. But it just seems like it's going in one direction, doesn't it, mate, in terms of just saying it's not safe at the moment.
Yeah, well, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But I just don't think the Premier League want to do it. I
No.
just don't think they want to postpone it. But if it gets worse, and it looks like it is, then maybe they will. I mean, if more clubs start to asking to postpone games and stuff, they might just bring it a 2 week break, and it might make sense in the end.
Yeah.
To be honest, like you said, Villa going to be playing loads of games towards the end of the season and stuff. I just want to quickly touch on the City game. I thought it was hilarious the way it was all our fault. Like.
Yeah. It always is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It always is.
To be honest, though, mate, I mean, I thought the game should have gone ahead because of us, but in the real ideal world, you shouldn't have that fixture anyway because it's a load of crap. Playing 2 days after Boxing Day, it's just pathetic.
And it, again, like you said, it's all about the money, which is the reason why the Premier League don't want to postpone the league or suspend it, because then they lose money. Then people say, I don't want to subscribe to Sky Sports now because I'm not bothered about cricket or rugby or whatever. I'm just bothered about football. So if there's no footy on, we seen it happened with BT earlier on last year when the football was first suspended. I think BT had to put something in places to say that you can basically, if customers stay, they'll give them it for cheaper or something like that, because that many customers were saying, well, I don't watch BT Sport for anything other than the football, so I'm cancelling my subscription, and they were losing a lot of money out on that. And those, let's not forget, by the way, I've said this a number of times and I'll say it again, the likes of Sky, the likes of BT, the likes of Amazon, they control the Premier League. They've got the money. They give the money to the clubs. They give the money to the Premier League. They have a say in what happens. And they'll be down the ear of the Premier League going, well, if you postpone this, then we lose out on hundreds of millions. And we might say, you know what, next year we're not going to give you as much to show games. We're not going to offer you as much because of that. So it's all about money and it's all about monetarising football. And ultimately, if people's safety is being put at risk, then surely that has to come before a penny in someone's pocket. But with the way football clubs are run at the moment and the money that's spent and transfers and all of that, it's hard to see that being a priority, even though it should be, isn't it, really? Unless
maybe the Premier League,
desperate.
Maybe the Premier League should just go, all right, Sam, we're just going to do a streaming service then.
Maybe.
That makes sense, wouldn't it? Why they haven't done it, I don't know.
Maybe. It's a difficult situation, like you said. It's a lot of
I do agree about the elf being first. Like, I'm just saying, the Premier League should maybe not let them control it, if you get me.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, the Premier League come out at the start of the season and said no matter what the situation is, teams are playing. If you can field 12 players, you're playing. And I didn't necessarily agree with that then, because listen, last thing Everton wanted was to play Manchester City, who've had a COVID outbreak, and then Carlo Ancelotti pick up COVID or Dominic Calvert-Lewin pick up COVID. It's a very, very serious matter, and that's the last thing Everton would have wanted / needed. The problem I had with that was the lack of communication. And I don't have a problem with the Villa game being postponed. I understand it. I agree with it. Fine. Safety's first, and we do wish the best recovery for those that have been affected. But I just think it seems like football's going in one direction, and that's the suspension of football again. I want to talk briefly about the AGM then, specifically Marcel Brands, and then I want to talk about your channel before we finish up, mate. Marcel Brands confirmed at last night's general meeting that Everton spent just over £60 million on Abdoulaye Doucouré, Alan and Ben Godfrey. James Rodriguez was a free. Niles Nkunku cost £200,000 in compensation fees, and Robin Olsen come in on loan with no loan fee, so free on loan. Unbelievable business, mate. For Carlo's first year in charge, first proper transfer window, let's be honest, I'm not counting last January. Unbelievable business. Marcel Brands deserves a lot of credit, I think, mate. And Marcel Brands has come under criticism before at Everton. I also want to talk about something he mentioned about the squad depth. I want to get this absolutely right because I don't want to mess it up. He said it was one of the most challenging and difficult windows ever. Talking about the last one, he said in 2018 we started with a squad of 40 players who represented the value of 311 million, an average value of 8.2 million per player. The current value of our 27-player squad is 456 million, an average of 16.9 million per player, and since June 2018 we have had more than 70 player exits. So practically the squad has been reduced by 13 players and has added over £140 million worth of worth in that squad, and we've gotten rid of 70 players. And he's also said that the priority for this window, January, is to get rid of more players, which again we all sort of understood anyway. The business in the summer was unbelievable, mate. And Marcel Brands, those stats alone show that Marcel Brands has done a fantastic job since he's been at Everton, don't he?
Yeah, that is the best window we've had in a while. Especially when you hear the prices. Like when I heard Rodriguez was free, I didn't believe it. I was like, no way is he been a free. We're paid, all right, we mightn't have paid 20 like the papers are saying, but we might have paid like 15 or something, but he ain't a free. And then I heard rumours that he'd give his old club some transfer fee that he didn't get. Yeah. So I was like, hang on, is this real? And when he confirmed it last night, I was like, oh my God, that is... Maybe, look, patience is a virtue at times, isn't it? I mean, we were all worried that he weren't signing, but at the end of the day, he's done unreal business to get him for nothing. And the dark horse of the transfer signing is Godfrey, because I thought he was going to be like a backup centre back, and he has been brilliant for us. I mean, I just thought, oh yeah, we've had another centre back here, good business, young centre back, but he's just been brilliant. Yeah. He has surprised me so much. And Alan and Decore have been brilliant in midfield, especially Decore of late. I think he's been in his best Everton form the last month. Yeah. The last month and a half, I think he's been great for us, especially with Alan missing. I mean, he sort of took over the midfield a little bit, and Alan is just fantastic. So I don't think he signed one bad player there. I know Nkunku is a youngster and looks like he's going to be good in the future. Yeah, they're the only players I think he's signed for Everton, aren't they? Is that right? Or probably Jared Branthwaite as well in there.
Branthwaite came in last January, I think, which was more of a Brands one than an Ancelotti one, I think.
Yeah, so you can't... Up to now, he's done great. He's brought some great players in, and for the price Brands got them for, he does deserve credit. All right, he's brought one or two players that haven't really turned out, but I think most of the buys he's done have been quite good, actually, when you think about it. I mean, a lot of questions over Yerry Mina. Now he's in there with Michael Keane. So that's turned out to be a brilliant buy, I think. Yeah. But 27 million, it's not that bad at all, the way he's been playing this season. I've always liked Yerry Mina anyway. But I think Marcel Brands has done quite a decent job. And apart from one or two players, I haven't really got a problem with Marcel Brands, and think he's done some good business for us.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And like you said, you know, it's about, as much as it's about bringing in players, and obviously he's brought in the likes of Dean and Richarlison and Mina and obviously James and Alan and Decore. It's also about getting rid of players, and those 70 exits that we've seen since 2018 are massive. And there's a lot more on the card. Your Balassis, your Besiches, you know, your Cenk Tosun, your Walcott will probably leave, and probably some players that are involved in the first team squad now probably won't be a first team player or a player at Everton next season. But that just really struck me when he said about the increase in value of the squad, and there's 30.
I should have mentioned that. Sorry.
No. What I'm saying, mate, is it makes you sick, because it's very easy to look at Marcel Brands and go, yeah, but he signed Delph. Yeah, okay, Delph hasn't worked. Yeah, but he signed Iwobi. Iwobi's looking good, but yeah, there's an argument that he hasn't worked. Moise Keane, but it's not just about the players he's brought in, which, by the way, for every bad player he's brought in 2 good players. It's about those financial sort of situations that we mightn't look at as fans, because we're not really asked about the value of the squad. We're not really asked about how many players we've got, but managers will be so bothered about that statistic there, that we've reduced our squad and increased its value. That'll be massive to Carlo Ancelotti when he come into Everton Football Club, and that's massive to Everton as a business and Everton's finances. Even though we've lost money again this year because of COVID, and football's a business where you probably are always going to lose money because you're spending more than usually you're getting back. I just think it's brilliant work by Marcel Brands, and I think he deserves to be applauded so much for that. Anyway, George, we spoke earlier on in the podcast about the fact that Everton isn't your only passion. You obviously are a big movie fan, similar to myself, similar to probably a lot of people, because when you watch Everton for 20, 30 plus years, you'd have to have something else where you can go and you can think, you know what, I'm just going to be emerged for an hour and a half and not have to think about that defeat. Although that's changing under Carlo. Your channel, Movie Worm, absolutely unbelievable YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out Jordan's channel and you're into films or TV or video games or anything like that, definitely go and check Jordan's channel out. I think most people are into films and television shows, and obviously everybody watches stuff on the telly, so go and check out Jordan's channel. I will leave the link in the description. It's unbelievable, it's fantastic, the content's brilliant. He's uploading consistently now. It's just great. There's some of the videos on there. Well, all the videos are brilliant. I remember watching the Xbox 360 collection, and it's just so nostalgic. I just sat back and I felt like a 14-year-old for an hour. What's your history then with sort of movies? How did you get into enjoying movies, and what was your inspiration behind thinking, you know what, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to talk about films?
I don't really know, mate. I think it was when I first watched Terminator 2 as a kid, and I was like blown away, and I was like, it was like the first movie my mum and dad sort of let me watch, like more of an adult film, apart from like these family films that I've been watching. They went, go on, you can watch that, and I was like in amazement by it. I think that was the film that really made me love movies, and from ever since then, I was just, it's hard to describe why you love it. You just do, don't you? And I love collecting as well. I love having them in my collection and stuff. I know there's a lot of streaming services out there now, but it's just a massive hobby of mine. And I love all types of films. Every genre. Every time I watch a film, I probably go onto IMDb and look into it and find a few facts about it and stuff. It's just a big interest that I've got, and I've always wanted to start. Well, not always wanted to start, but I started watching YouTube properly about 3 years ago, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. And it was mainly gaming channels that I watched, but there was this one guy called Dean Thompson who I just really used to watch all the time. And then I remember watching the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and I thought, wonder if there's any reviews online of these Elm Street films, and I can see if, I agree with them or whatever. And I just typed in Nightmare on Elm Street review, and there was this guy on there called Cody Leach. He's got about 40,000 subs now. He's doing quite well. And I just watched one of his Nightmare on Elm Street reviews, and then I watched all 7 of them, for all 7 films. And I think I watched them for about 4 hours that day, so he was a big inspiration. And I thought, you know what, I'd love to go and review some of my favourite films online. And it took me about a year to pluck the courage up and finally do it, but it's one of the best things I've ever done. I haven't looked back, and I've got lots of ideas for the future. I just love doing it. When you said it consistently, over Christmas, I think I put 8 videos up in 7 days. They were mainly down to end of year lists, like my top 10 best films, my top 10 worst of the year. But I was just in this zone. I was just like loving making videos and stuff, and I feel like I'm getting a lot better at it. So that's the history behind me and my channel, really, about films.
Well, definitely, it's brilliant, mate. It's absolutely brilliant, and you can see you behind you, you've got a whole list of films, and again, you talk about having passion in something and energy and the love and the want to do it. That is always a massive need if you're going to do a YouTube channel, really, and anything really is you've got to have that passion, and you can tell you've got a massive passion for films. So in terms of your favourite, then I've been watching your videos, your collabs with Aiden and Andy. I think they've been absolutely fantastic. So I probably would know this, but just for anybody listening that mightn't know this, what's your favourite film? What's your favourite genre? What's the best film you've watched recently?
My favourite film of all time. Not the best film I've ever seen. Okay. My favourite. I think there's a difference there.
Yeah.
Because the best film I've ever seen is probably The Godfather 2. But that's not what I'm going to go over and rewatch. Yeah.
It's very long, isn't it?
Just, and it's just not that type of film, really. Yeah. But my favourite that I always watch all the time is... Obviously, I said Terminator 2 is one of them, but I'd say RoboCop. I've always loved that film. There's a long story behind it. I won't go into it, but I just love it. I can watch it right now. It's just so rewatchable to me, and that's probably my favourite film. My favourite genre is probably horror. I do quite a lot of horror videos on there as well. Big horror fan. So, they're about the favourites. The best film I watched recently was on New Year's Day, and I couldn't believe I'd never seen it. And I'm not going to sound like a big movie fan here because I've only just got around to it, but it was a film called Whiplash. Okay. I don't know if you've seen it.
Don't think so.
Oh, that is instantly probably in my top 25 films ever now. So that's probably the best one I've watched recently.
I'll have to check it out, mate.
I done if anyone wants to check the channel out, I've done a top 20 first time watches of last year, where they are films from 2019 or less that I'd watched for the first time last year, and I'd done 20 films in order of, the best, number one being the best. So
happy days. Have you seen the Haunting series on Netflix?
Which, the Haunting of Bly Manor or Haunting of Hill House?
Both.
I've seen the Haunting of Hill House. I didn't like it.
Didn't you like it? No.
I'm in the minority there, but Mike Flanagan, who sort of created that series, I'm hit and miss with him, really.
Yeah. No, I agree. I seen a lot of people saying it was the scariest thing they'd ever seen on Netflix, and I watched it and I was like, it's got scary moments, it's got jump scare moments, but it's not very... They're pretty much the same, aren't they? It's different characters, but it's the same sort of... I didn't really understand it, to be honest, both of them, because Hill House, I think, come first, and okay, it's a decent... It's a decent program. It's got some good scare points, and I think it's quite rewatchable. But then they brought Bly Manor out, and it was the same actors and actresses. A similar scenario in terms of a haunted house. Yeah. Just that Bly Manor had kids in it for the whole thing, and Haunted House only had bits and bobs of showing the characters as children. So I didn't really get why he basically made two of the same sort of series.
Yeah.
But I heard somebody mention, I watched the review of Bly Manor, and they actually said he doesn't see it as a horror, he sees it as a love story. I don't know if you've seen it, I don't want to ruin it, but basically I haven't seen it. There's a relationship between two of the characters, and it sort of forms, and it's more like that rather than the horror. The horror's just like the... I done film in school, and I'm going to sound proper... Is it MacGuffin? It's MacGuffin, isn't it? The word I'm looking for.
Which one?
No, I think we learned in film studies MacGuffin. I'm pretty sure it's that. I'm going to look like an idiot if it's not. Psycho.
I thought you were on about McLovin from Psycho.
Oh, no. You know Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock?
Yeah.
Apparently, I think the MacGuffin's the right word. The MacGuffin in that is at the start when the money's stolen. And I think what it means in film is when... at the start of a film, it looks like that the story's going to go a certain way, but that's actually got nothing to do with the film whatsoever. It's just something that's portrayed at the start, and that's sort of like that with Bly Manor with the horror. Not as much, because obviously horror's throughout the whole series, so it's probably not a MacGuffin, but it's more about like the love story. But anyway,
it's like a decoy for the viewer, sort of.
Yeah, it is. It's like, and again, I suppose that sort of means it's a good series, because you're going into it thinking this is a horror, and if you come out and go, oh, it was a horror, you probably think it wasn't that scary, but then as soon as someone says, what about the love element to it, the love story element to it, you're probably like, oh yeah, it's a decent program. You done a review on The Fall on the channel, which I thought was just a bros series, to be honest with you. Other than the third one, I was a bit disappointed with the third season, just because it was more psychological, and it's going to sound really weird, but I'm going around the streets just doing people in. That's excellent, isn't it, mate? That's so good.
Yeah, my dad told me to watch that about 7 years ago. Because it's
been out on BBC, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I was blown away by it. I love a good crime drama, and that was excellent. Like, I agree with you, though, the third series wasn't as good as the first two.
Yeah.
So it had some great moments, but the first two seasons were brilliant. But it's definitely worth a watch for anyone who likes that sort of thing. I thought the main lead, not the woman off the X-Files, I forgot her name.
Gillian Anderson.
Gillian Anderson, yeah, not her. The guy, and I forgot his name. James something.
Yeah.
Jamie
Dornan, I think his name is.
Jamie Dornan, that's it. I thought he was brilliant, and he was scary.
Yeah, he was.
And I won't ruin it on here, but in the third series, you sort of like, oh right, is that what it is? You sort of like don't know whether to believe him or not.
Feel sorry for him.
Yeah, it's a great series.
I'm probably going to sound like an absolute idiot here, because you and probably every other movie fan will probably go, oh, you're talking out your arse, mate, you haven't watched enough films then. But I actually think, out of all the acting performances I've seen, I don't think it's the best, but I think it's very close to being the best in terms of how he plays that character. He plays him absolutely brilliantly, and I just think it's a really, again, without spoiling it or going into any of the details.
Who's this?
Jamie Dunham. Without going into any of the details, it's a very, very different style of that genre of series, isn't it? Because you see a more in-depth life into him as a person and his family life, rather than him being this shadow. And I think you alluded to that in your review, didn't you?
Yeah, I did mention that. That's what made it different, because in crime dramas, you usually like the killers in the background, and it's all like
hidden.
how they're gonna catch him and stuff like that. And it does do that in this series, but I like the way it went to his point of view of life as well, and how he deals with his family and his daughter and stuff. I thought that was very interesting dynamic of the fall, and it worked well for it.
Yeah. Just last on the fall, because I love it, and I'd sit here and talk about it all night. So you just said about, again, without trying to spoil things, I'm probably going to spoil it. You're a professional at this stuff now. You know what to say without spoiling it. I'm probably going to go and say something that everyone goes, nice one, won't watch it now. Do you sort of feel like, and I watched it on Netflix a couple of months back, so I've probably got a bit of a different sort of reasoning to it, because it did come out so long ago on BBC. When you watch the third series, are you sort of, I don't know, just a bit like they could have made a fourth one and it sort of ended a little bit, I don't know, anticlimactic? Was that just me? Or do you think it's at its time and that was it? That was a good point to end it?
I don't know, mate. I thought it was the right time to end it. It just felt a different tone. Yeah. You get me? It was just the first two were just so good, the way it, and then the way it was building up and stuff, and then the third series was just totally, you were in control. Yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, but
no, I agree. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
It's very different,
side
isn't it?
Of what he is able to do, if you get me.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't watched it, go on. Sorry, mate.
I was just saying, the third series felt totally different.
Yeah, no, it did.
But it weren't bad.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. If it was a standalone series, you'd go, oh, it's decent, in different elements of it, but it was just, if you haven't watched The Fall, go and watch it on Netflix. It's unbelievable. Some of the acting in it is fantastic. The different storylines in it, the different, like I said, the different things that are happening. The end of the second season, I think it is just brilliant. The last episode is about 45 hours long, but it's just unbelievable. On Netflix,
best episodes of TV, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. On Netflix, then, what's the best film you've seen? Oh no, I suppose I can't say film because there's a lot of good films on Netflix. What's the best television series you've seen on Netflix then that is sort of specific to Netflix, if you like, and hasn't just been put on there?
Well, I was gonna say it is. It's not a Netflix original, but it's been on there for so long. But it is on there. So I was gonna say it's the TV show of Fargo.
Okay.
It's the most underrated TV show I've ever seen. I highly recommend that anyone watches it. There's about 10 episodes in each season, and it's a different story, but they're loosely linked each season, if you get me. But I think it's absolutely unbelievable, and it doesn't get talked about enough. But I'd probably say for Netflix, I think it started on BBC, but it is a Netflix original now. I mean, Netflix has got the rights and stuff. I think it's Black Mirror. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, every episode's like a short film, if you get me.
Yeah,
it's just totally different, not linked to the other one and stuff. But they're all amazing. I highly recommend that you watch that. I know everyone's favourite's Breaking Bad and stuff, but I would go with Fargo and Black Mirror definitely.
Is right. And then just lastly on films, because I think we should do a podcast where we sit down and talk about films for hours.
Come on my channel, mate.
Yeah, well, defo. Yeah, I'll 100% come on your channel, mate. 100%.
Nah, mate.
Everyone will probably watch me though and go, he hasn't got a fucking clue, this fella. He doesn't know. I'll be like that. Oh, what's that fella? Robert the what? So, everyone will just be laughing at me, but I'll definitely come on because I do love films. But just finally on films then, before we finish, I want to ask you an Everton film related question. So you said Fargo. Is that your favourite series, including series that aren't on Netflix as well? Then
it's probably my second favourite series of all time. Yeah, my first is 24.
24.
If no one's seen it,
I haven't seen it, but my dad absolutely raves about 24. He absolutely loves it. I'll have
10 out of 10, mate.
I'll have to give that one a watch definitely. Final sort of film related question: have you seen Case 39?
No, I've heard about it. Yeah, I sort of got that film spoiled for me, to be honest.
Yeah, to be fair, it spoils itself in about 15 minutes in. You know when you see one of them films, and I'm probably gonna get bashed by the film critics and stuff, but you know when you see one of them films where it's got an amazing like story basis, and if you've seen it written down on a piece of paper, you'd go, that's unbelievable. But then you watch it and how it's made, and you sort of think, I don't want to sound like a snob, but it's like, could have been made a bit better, that shot could have been filmed a bit better. It just feels a bit like that. I'd watch it just for You probably watch it and message me going, you've just wasted 2 hours of my time there. But I don't know, it just feels a bit like that. Like, that could have been done a lot better than it has been done.
Yeah, I when I heard about what it was about and stuff, I was like, that sounds like a really good film. That, but I haven't seen it, to be honest. So, but I know what you're saying. I've seen plenty of films where you think that's going to be good when you hear like the story and stuff, and it's a letdown.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's just mad. It's just, but I thought I don't know whether you'd seen it or not. I watched it very recently. That's why, and me missus was like, "Oh, this is brilliant, this," and I was like that little film studies person in the corner going, could have shot that better myself. Or, you can tell that's a green screen, and I was just getting snarls left, right and centre for it, obviously.
I think films are very subjective, aren't they? I mean,
True.
me and my fiance watch films, like we watched Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler in, and I thought it was an unbelievable film, and she absolutely hated it. So it's just subjective, isn't it?
It's opinions, isn't it? And that's life, and that's why film is loved by everybody, because one person can love a film and the next person can, hate a film, and different reasons, and that's obviously that's opinions, and that's fine. Film related Everton question then, mate, before we finish up.
Oh, you're gonna put me on the spot here.
I am gonna put you on the spot. If you could describe Everton as one film genre, and maybe even specifically one film, what would you describe Everton as?
I'm gonna go against everything I say horror for genre, aren't I?
I'd agree completely.
I think people will also be disappointed if I don't say horror for Everton. But
comedy. That probably people would say.
Yeah, comedy. Yeah. At the minute, mate, fantasy.
Yeah. Spot on. Spot on. Hey, you saved that one. Spot on.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
I don't want to be negative and say horror, so.
I agree, absolutely.
As a film title, or what happens in a film? You mean?
Yeah, go on, as a film title. That's an interesting one.
Mate, that's a hard one, man. I don't want to turn away from the camera. But...
The good, the bad, the ugly is one that comes to mind.
That could be it, yeah. Especially from some of our managers we've had in the past. No, I don't mean ugly, like, but
ugly performances, not personal looks, in case anyone gets confused.
Yeah. What about The Great Escape? Now we've got Carlo going from Carlo to Allardyce. How's that?
There you go. That is the Great Escape.
We had a few of the Great Escapes in Premier League history as well, haven't we, with Wimbledon and Coventry?
Yeah, certainly have. The Greatest Showman as well, I could say. Carlo's he's a showman, isn't he?
Carlo, yeah.
Well, there you go. Just thought it'd be a little interesting twist.
I'm sorry I didn't get a very good answer for that one. But
no, listen, you picked a well better.
Can't think.
The Great Escape is a belting answer, mate. It's an absolute belting answer. I'm sure...
Just from Allardyce to Ancelotti.
It is The Great Escape. 100%. If you can think of a film title, by the way, in the comments that represents Everton in your opinion, leave it in the comments and I'll get involved with them. I'm sure we'll have a little funny conversation about it. But anyway, Jord, massive thanks for joining us on the second episode of the podcast. If you have enjoyed this podcast, by the way, if you're watching as a YouTube video, please do leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Give the video a like, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you're watching on iTunes or Spotify or any other podcast platform, massive thank you for watching this episode. If you could share it and rate it and give it 5 stars and all that good stuff, it would mean a great deal to me. Jord, massive thank you for coming on, mate. Massive thank you. Really appreciate that. Anything to say before we finish up the podcast?
No, just thanks very much for having me on, and keep up the fantastic work on your channel and your new podcast. I wish you all the best of luck with it.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure it'll be great.
Thank you very much, mate. And of course, I wish you all the best on the channel, and I can't wait to be on the channel talking more films and trying
to get you in.
Trying to get me film study student back into full flow. Massive thank you to everybody for watching. Like I said, if you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to share the podcast as well. Really do appreciate it. We'll be back with episode 3 within the next week or so, so look out for that one. Massive thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.